Hey Siri, what is the heat index in Conway, Arkansas?
It currently feels like 117 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, hello again. As expected, my good buddy John up there in Ohio, he, the one who runs the wrecking yard for Thunderbirds up there, he did in fact have a headlight bucket and he sent it to me at a very reasonable price, and it has all the little eyelets in there. All the little eyelets. This is great. All I got to do is sand it down a little bit, get rid of some of the old paint. This came off of a silver car. Be easy to work on, no problem. But the headlight adjustment screws are all messed up, was as expected, you know, in a car this old. But I have brand new ones in the one that I'm replacing, which is this one over here. I had already bought and replaced all these, so I'll just take them out of here and put them in the new silver one that I have. These are really nice. I think I got these from O'Reilly Auto Parts, believe it or not. I think. It's been quite a while ago. One more thing, John's working on getting me a set of these bumper guards out of one of his trailers and everything. He's a one-man operation, so you know he's kind of scurrying around a lot trying to take care of all this stuff, so you have to be patient. If you think you're going to get something in 2 days, it's not going to happen. You know, he'll get it to you as quickly as he can. But, you know, this is, hopefully he'll come up with these. I'm sure he will. By the way, a little bit of info. I decided to look up what these things are actually called in the shop manual. This is a retaining ring, or a lamp retaining ring around the headlight. And these are called ball rings, because they have a little round bottom, I guess. Ball rings, lamp retaining rings, or retaining ring. Well, this dashing and devilishly handsome young feller is John, the one I just mentioned. He's the one that runs the wrecking yard of all the Thunderbirds up in Vermilion, Ohio. He told me he has about 40 or more 1958 to 1979 Thunderbirds. 40 plus. And they're in various degrees of condition, you know. You can buy any part on the car or the entire car. It would probably behoove you, if you're interested in even getting one at a reasonable cost. He's very reasonable. You would go see him and maybe he'll say, well, go out there and look around, or he'll escort you around. Probably send you on your own. I don't know how he does it. And you can pick one up to refurbish, rehab, use for parts, whatever. He's also got 40 to 50 Lincolns that are 66 to 76 or 77. He couldn't remember what the exact upper year was. And he's also got one lone crazy 1976 Ford Ranchero. He told me it's not in all that good a shape, but if you have a more, you know, Ranchero, you like, you need some parts or something, you know, he'd be willing to negotiate with you there. He's also got 100 or more 390 Thunderbird engines. Now, he sells parts, you know, from those engines, the carburetors. If I'd have known that, I'd have gone to John first for a carburetor instead of putting together a Franken carburetor, you know, which is made from different parts and all that. But I didn't even think about that. And he's got 60 to 70 carburetors, he said, at least. No, not 60. Yeah, 60 to 70 carburetors. And he's got 9 trailers with parts. And these all belonged to Mr. Jasinski, the previous owner, or you know, he passed away. They belonged to Mrs. Jasinski, and John works for her, as I've stated. So give him a call. I will put this phone number on the screen. I said, can I do that? He said, sure. I said, can you send me a selfie photo sitting at your desk? He said, sure. So that's how I wound up getting this. I'm kind of glad he's not as good looking as I am. If he was better looking than me, I would have never put him on the screen. But he is better looking than Buzz 1151. I got to say that. Now, 2 years ago, in my refurbishment Thunderbird video, part number 110, I covered the wrecking yard up there. It showed all of this. Starts out, so I'll put the link down below the video, and you want to start it out at 11:48. Start the video out at 11:48, and it'll take you on and show you what was in the wrecking yard at that time. Our next topic is a comment I received on a video. About 4 or 5 videos ago, I went to Mount Pettigene in a neighboring county over here, and went to the Mount Pettigene car show and swap meet, and then I put up a video about it. Well, that generated several comments from people, and that was really nice. I think we had quite a number of views, which surprised me. And but one guy came in here lately, just within the last few days, and he left a comment, and it says, "John, I absolutely love your channel, and I have watched all of your videos. They have helped me with my 65 T-Bird, and you and others inspired me to start this channel of mine, working on all of my projects. But I never thought you might be a bit of a classic car snob." What? He said, "I'm nitpicking cars." I mean, that's like a knife in my heart. I got to tell you, I worked 5 years in a jail as the booking officer, and they would bring these guys in, sometimes there'd be 4 or 5 police officers on these guys, fighting and cussing and swearing and threatening everybody in sight. And this was a daily occurrence almost, and I was the first guy to see them. And they used to call me every name in the book. They would call my mother every name in the book. But none of them hurt that bad as me being called a classic car snob. I don't know if I can sleep well tonight. Holy mackerel. Well, he started to comment out very nicely, and I appreciate that. And I don't know about this snob business. Let's continue on here. He says, "I myself love cars, everyone made, as long as they are from the 1980s and older." Okay, I'll buy that. "They're cool in my book. I think all have their good and their bad parts." Well, I agree with that. No matter what they are, they remind me of a much better time when we were still free, the 1980s being the last decade of true freedom in America. Very debatable in that. My bucket list of cars is about 50 long, full of all makes and models. But to each their own. Everyone has their own taste. I'm glad you're back. And most of all, I'm sorry to hear about your wife. I thought something must have happened for you to stop making videos. But I'm glad you're back. I appreciate all of that and the kind words about wife. Thank you very much. His name is Joshua, and he lives in Minnesota. I think what he was referring to was, well, let me back up a little bit. In my idea of a classic car were the cars I grew up with, 1950s, 1960s. A 1980 car doesn't mean a whole lot to me. A foreign car means zero. I once went to a car show in Arizona one time, and half of the cars there were jacked up Toyota pickup trucks. I mean, they were like this high off the ground, And the young guys really got into that, man. These things are in the rear of the car show. In the front were all the classics from the 50s and 60s. And all the young guys, they just migrated to the back, to the rear of the show to look at these giant trucks. It was their era of pickups, their era of cars. Even though they were trucks, they liked the Hondas and the Toyotas and all that stuff. So, each generation has its own cars, its own music, and its own customs and morals. Actually, we always. Joshua looks at the old days, the old time, in a nostalgic way. I had a. I hesitate to tell this, but I'm not even going to tell it. Just let it slide. Anyway, I go to these car shows to see 50s and 60s classic cars. I don't like the foreign cars that are there. I don't like pickup trucks from the 1990s. That's just my druthers, I have my likes and I have my dislikes. I am not a snob. Where does snob come from? Well, it originates in the country of England when they used to have ritzy schools for these ritzy kids whose family that were nobility, and they had nobility titles. They had the elite, you know, but some families had lots of money, and they could also send their kids to the school in England, to these fancy schools, but they were not nobility, they were not titled. So the rich kids who had titles and had nobility in their historical background, I guess, their family history, they considered those without that nobility to be called sine nobilitate. Sine nobilitate, which translates out basically as no nobility. And over the years, the sine and nobilitate sort of got scrunched together, and it became snobs. So that's where snobs come from. Now, Joshua's got the. It's amazing that if someone disagrees with, if one person disagrees with the other, this guy's a snob and this guy's not. He considers himself not a snob. It's rather interesting. I could reverse this entire thing. Matter of fact, I think I will. Joshua bought a Thunderbird. He wanted to restore a Thunderbird. And why didn't he get a General Motors Oldsmobile, Plymouth, or Dodge restore? Does that make him a Ford snob? Of course not. He just has his likes and dislikes. Now, he said he likes all kinds of cars from the 80s on back, but he chose a Ford Thunderbird instead. So, you know, call it like you see it, okay? Anyway, I want Joshua to stick around. I watched his videos that he's been putting up, and he has almost no views at all, and I feel kind of bad for him because he's really trying hard. And he's up there in that freezing cold country of Minnesota in the wintertime, and he can't really work on them as often as he would like. You know, he wound up putting a tent around his Thunderbird and putting a heater in the tent in order to, you know, withstand the freezing cold. So one more thing I think he was talking about were rat rigs, rat rods, rat rigs. Up there at the car show, there were some rat rigs. There was one rat rig in particular I made a comment on. I said I don't like those. I was there with my grandson, my oldest grandson. I said, you know, he said, well, this is kind of neat. I said, not to me, it's not. I have no use for rat rigs and rat rods. And, you know, I have a feeling as to why a lot of people do rat rods, in particular the young folk. They want to get into the car game. They want to have fun. They want to restore something good enough, well enough to drive around and gang with other guys that might not have a lot of money, might have obligations in other areas. They just can't, they're not like me. They just can't afford to spend $500 at the drop of a hat, okay? And you have to say, like me, they got to save their nickels and dimes, but I don't have, all my income is expendable. You know, kids are grown, the wife, it's just me now. The wifey's gone, it's just me. But they have kids to take care of. They've got education needs coming up, clothing, bills. Every year it gets worse and worse. We got inflation tearing us apart, and I understand that. But they want to be able to do something that interests them, and I think it's wonderful that they do that. But as far as the rat rig itself, not my kind of car. That's not being a snob. That's saying, hey, I don't like it. That's all. I just don't like that kind of car. And to me, it's just not attractive enough. I want a car that's painted and shiny from the 50s and 60s, what I grew up with. Now I thought I'd look up what a rat rod. You know, the definition of a rat rod, this is kind of interesting. And here's what I found. A rat rod, as usually known today, is a custom car with a deliberately worn down, unfinished appearance. Well, typically lacking paint, showing rust, lots of rust, and made from cheap or cast off parts. Exactly right. That does not appeal to me, you know. I don't have to have a car from the 50s or 60s that's 100% restored. You know, thousands and thousands, $200,000. Yeah, I don't plan to go to shows, trailer my car all over the United States with all the tons of chrome on it and everything. I don't need that. I just want a car that's rehabbed, refurbished, and there again, it goes back to how much money do I want to spend. I can spend a few bucks as we dribble along, and I have it to spare, but to plow $100,000 to $150,000 into a car for a full restoration, don't have it, don't want it, don't want to save up the money for it. I would rather restore what I've got, sell it and buy another car and start over on something new. That would be great. So there's no telling what the future's going to bring on that. So anyway, I want to thank Joshua for being a subscriber. Thank him for his input. And no, my friend, I am not a snob. Until next time, this is John.